Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review. We're going to talk about all three Skyline movies, the first one in 4K, the other two on Blu-ray. I saw the first two. I don't think I ever saw the third one, and it turns out there's a fourth one that hasn't been released yet. Skyline, 2010 film, special effects reel by the brothers Strauss. They own a special effects company. They worked on the iceberg sequence in Titanic. They've done some pretty big things. They've done music videos. They did all that. Then they made this. They only directed the first one. Liam O'Donnell, who co-wrote this movie, went on to direct the next two. So they kind of kept it in the family to do this. The first movie kind of begins the story. The second movie tells a story that's concurrent and parallel to the first one. And then the third one takes it to new heights. These are not great movies, none of the three of them, but I think the second one is the best one. The first one begins the story. We are introduced to people in Los Angeles, and blue lights start coming out of the sky, and it starts hypnotizing people who walk into the light and are sucked up into spaceships. And that's pretty much what the story is about, the first one. I think the first one is good for, hey, we have this idea, look at what we can do. As a real movie, it kind of plods around a little bit. The special effects are fantastic. Like the UFOs, the blue light, the people being picked up, it's seamless, even by the time you finally get to see the creatures, the walking mechanical type things. Eric Balfour stars in this. Brittany Daniel is in this. A lot of other people that you recognize from other movies, small roles. Universal Pictures released this back in November of 2010. $10 to $20 million budget, grossed $68 million. That's why there's two more. It did really well. A lot of people went to see this. And as a self-contained little movie, it was fine. Like if you considered it like an independent film, you know what I mean? But the second one, they had much bigger aspirations. So the first one tells that little compact story, and then the second one begins on the other side of the city with other people's stories. And somehow they got Frank Grillo to be in this. Liam O'Donnell returns. He wrote it. He produced it. He directed it. Frank Grillo, a few other stars, including Iko Uwais and Antonio Fargas from Starsky and Hutch. I'm not making that up. So we start with a similar kind of story. Brother trying to get brother out of jail. We get some background story. There's a lot of actual story to who these characters are before we really start getting into holy crap. Eventually, we get on board one of the alien crafts and crash it, where we run into Iko Uwais and his stunt team. And the movie becomes a whole different thing. We all of a sudden have freedom fighters who know martial arts added to the already interesting sci-fi story, and it kind of becomes an amalgam of things. So at this point, if you don't want to know any more, I'm going to talk with minor spoilers in 3, 2, 1. After this, you can, I guess, fast forward to the end or come back after you've watched the movies. There's a thing that happens in the movies that it stretches my imagination a bit too far. The creatures rip brains out of humans and pop them into other things and go on. Pop them in, and all of a sudden it powers something else. So they have some kind of technology that not only would not damage the brain and part of the spinal cord when they rip it out of the back of somebody's head, and then somehow connect it into a mechanical thing. Every time they do it, I get it. It's gross looking. It's like, oh my God, and they just killed that person and tossed the body away. I get the shock value of it and why they did it. But I have a hard time because I have a hard time with what kind of technology. How does that even happen? There are zillions of connections between our brain and everything else in our body, and they just rip that out of a head and pop it into another mechanical thing. I started thinking about nanogels and things like that. They pop it in the nanogel and it makes new connections. Okay, obviously science fiction technology may be beyond my thinking, but I'm a pretty smart guy and if it's not possible to control the weather, it's not really possible to rip someone's brain out of their head and just pop it into something else and walk about your day. Anyway, with that MacGuffin taken out of the way, it's interesting that we add a whole bunch of martial artists in the second half of the second film. And where we go from there, a main character dies in the first movie, but the brain is saved because it was put into one of these things. So now we have a mute character who is supposed to be a brother, and Anyway, that's why I mentioned that, because they're starting to stretch yes, it's a B movie, and yes, it's a special effects reel, but if you're paying attention to the story and everything, that just, to me, we're stretching it a bit here to have this kind of character, and that's the problem with the third one. At the end of the second one, the freedom fighters have some wins, and the idea is we're going to send people to the aliens this time, kind of like Independence Day. Well, let's take one of their ships and let's go get them. And the movie kind of ends with a brief, there's where they go, and you'll get a next movie. And that's what they did. So the second one's called Beyond Skyline, and the third one is called Skylines, and they work a 3 into lines. I think the acting, the level of acting that's going on here is actually pretty good. For what we're dealing with. If you watch the extras, a lot of green screen, a lot of things not there. They did have some of these creatures built, so you can actually react to that, but like behind them is almost nothing. One of the detriments to the movies, I don't know that I would have done it this way. The movies have blooper reels at the end. The second and third one, they have these blooper reels where they show everybody mess up. And it's great. It relieves some tension after you've watched brains being plucked out of people and placed into mechanical things. But maybe do that as a post-credit scene, not directly after the denouement, of the end of the movie. You just hit a big boom, we're going to go do this, and this is next, and now we're going to show you everybody screwing around. Put that as an extra on the Blu-ray, or put that like in an end cap of the credits or something. It's a little jarring to me, and it helps in a way, because then I realized that the hour and a half I just spent in this B movie was actually a lot of fun for everybody involved. Both of the ends of the movies, that's all they demonstrate, is like those people worked really hard and had a lot of fun making these movies, as crazy as they are. So the third movie, Skylines, the female character from the second movie, she has a little bit of their powers, takes the ship and forces to go fight them. And that's what that movie's about. They go to they think it's their home planet kind of stuff. And they introduce other creatures, other aliens. There's a hierarchy of things, and they get into some different things. And again, I applaud all three movies for aiming for the fences. They are special effects reels with stories in them. The second and third one, even more. Like they're creating a mythology, and they're doing things with the characters and arcs and things. They're really trying. This is not like, one of those Screamboat movies or Five Nights at Freddy's movies. They're trying to make movies out of these B movies, but they are what they are, and they also know what they're supposed to be. So they give you a lot of action, and a lot of alien spaceships, and a lot of fights, and a lot of action. After the first one kind of sets the tone. It's a little grim, and then boom, the next two are kind of action movies for the most part, with science fiction and horror elements. These will have an interesting place on my shelf. These are not, as I talk to new people I meet, and that's how I kind of feel out people, is what's your favorite movies? And this is, if I was educating someone on my favorite movies, this would be way down the list. But the reason why I started all this, one of the stores I buy from, HamiltonBook.com, had Skyline, the original one, on the new Shout Factory 4K that came out recently, or a few years ago, for really, really cheap. And I already had Blu-ray copies that I had picked up recently from my used Blu-ray store. Both of them still in the plastic, actually. I don't know what happened to my second one. I used to own that, but I couldn't find it when I got my stuff up here. So anyway, long story short, I have 3 new copies. The first one in 4K looks fantastic. I mean, it's an upconvert, but like the HDR steals the show, the blue lights, any of the highlights, the lights, anything lights on things, reflections, that kind of thing. Movie looks really, really good for what it is. Second and third movies are on basically bare bones Blu-ray. There's no extras on the second one, but there are some extras on the third one. They didn't list that on the back. I thought it was going to be another bare bones like the second one, but Skylines actually did have a few extras. But it's hard to recommend. Maybe they'll release a box set when all 4 come out and you can get all 4 of them cheap. It's hard to recommend any of them. You kind of have to watch the first one and know what's going on, and the second one is probably the best one. If you were entertained by 1 and 2, then watch 3 and look for number 4. Number 4 is going to bring back Iko Uwais. Like I said, they crashed in Indonesia, and his stunt team happened to be freedom fighters there, and the 2 storylines merged. And so one of his stunt guys return in the third movie and was killed off, unfortunately. So he comes back in the fourth movie. I imagine it's going to be more of an action film from the sound of it. But it was made in 2025. It just hasn't gotten a wide release yet. Interested to see. Would I recommend these? If you're looking for special effects, the special effects are high above the budgets. The second movie had a budget of $16 million. I don't know what the budget for the third one was. The second movie only made about $1 million. It didn't get a theatrical release. So you're getting special effects reels with interesting science fiction stories on them. It's always fun to watch somebody like Frank Grillo or Iko Uwei's work. So all about that. Some of the other character actors very much enjoyed their work in these films. They're not great films, but they are what they are. And if they were on a streaming service, you watch them. So let's use that bar. They're better than what you would see on an average no-name Netflix science fiction show. How about that? The trilogy taken together with a fourth one coming is not bad cinema. It's just not great cinema. What do you want? It's not going to be The Matrix. It never tried to be. It's not going to be Independence Day. It never tried to be. It tried to be what it is. Each one swings a little wider, and good for them. So as a trilogy, I give a half recommendation to Skylines. The first one looks great in 4K. The other two look fine on Blu-ray. The third one has some decent extras, and the first one has some decent extras. There you go. That's my half recommendation for the Skyline films. And I will watch the fourth one because I've made it this far. Scott, I'm ROCKFILE. More podcasts are on the way. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a spectacular day.